Hello, I'm James Toy, Senior Vice President of Government Affairs for KCRAR. You're about to watch one of our candidate interviews, an unfiltered, front row look at how those seeking office approach the issues that shape private property rights and the real estate industry as a whole. We share these conversations publicly so you can hear directly from the candidates, understand their positions in their words, and cast your vote with confidence. We're good to go. And again, James Toy, SVP of Government Affairs for KCRAR. We are joined today by Commissioner Jay Johnson from Clay County. Commissioner, thank you for joining us this morning. We'd love to hear a little bit more about you and your campaign for a second term in office.
Okay, thanks, James. I appreciate the opportunity. Tell you a bit about my background. A little different than some. I was actually born and raised in Southern California. Did my career out there. I was in law enforcement. I was a police chief in LA County. I did about 23 plus years in LA County in the last 6 years plus in Orange County. I was a chief at Newport Beach Police Department. I retired about 10 years ago. Retired, moved my family of wife and 3 kids out here to Missouri, bought some property out here with some land, and got the pretend country with the horses and the dirt bikes and all that kind of stuff. And but 5 minutes away from civilization, Home Depot and restaurants. So, but when I came here, the timing was that the Clay County Commission was a little bit of a mess. The politics were kind of crazy here in Clay County. I don't know how much you followed that, but very dysfunctional. And I thought, you know what? I've got a background in government. I was actually an acting city manager for a while. I thought I'd throw my name in the hat. But then at the time, a couple other candidates put their names in. And I thought, you know what? I'm fine with them. I don't need to be in office. I'm fine with them doing it. Then we changed our county constitution, or we created a county constitution. It expanded the role of the commission. We now have 7 commissioners. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to put my name in the hat just in case, because I don't want anybody else in there who could cause some problems like we'd had in the past. So, so that's what I did. I'm fairly conservative, fiscally conservative when it comes to county governance. Excuse me. And I'll certainly be able to expand more on that when we get into some questions about what I've done. But I've been in office for the past 3.5 years now. So there's 4-year term. You get 2 4-year terms. So I'm just completing my first term, and I'm now running for office for my second term. I have a general election I need to go to. There's only one guy running against me, so I'll just go straight to the general election in November. So, so I'm here looking for support, obviously from you guys. I know you guys supported me in my first campaign. I'm hoping to get that support again, but open to any questions or things you want from me.
Well, Commissioner, thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. You left Southern California and the land of the red hot chili peppers and ended up in Clay County, Missouri. How did you choose that location?
Um, well, a number of reasons. One, I wanted to get out of California. California is a nice place to visit. But I was born and raised in big city, LA County, Long Beach specifically. I kind of like country. And so I have extended family back here. I have a large church family back here. So we came back, did a little research back here, and decided Clay County was a place we wanted to land. Actually, one of the reasons we looked at Clay County is because of the crime specifically. The crime rate was low as it was, and the quality of life here we liked. And interesting how we came about this moving here. We'd had a realtor. It was at the time frame where I was retiring. My oldest daughter was just graduating middle school. I thought once you start high school, I didn't want to take her out of high school. So I thought, no, if we're going to move, now's the time. She was in a private school at the time. So we were looking at property, the realtor here, and couldn't really find anything we wanted. I was driving back to the airport one day, came across this property where I live now. As I drove by, I fell in love with the property. It's just gorgeous property from you see from the street. So I put a note in the guy's mailbox. It wasn't for sale. I just put a note in the guy's mailbox. Hey, if you're thinking about moving anytime soon from California, thinking about moving back here in the next year or so, give me a call. He called me the next day. He said, I've already moved out. He said, I wasn't going to put it on the market, but let's talk. And we talked, came up with a great deal. And that's how I ended up in the place where I am now. So
That's a
That's a
really
great
cool
story.
story. Wow. Wow. Well, certainly want to ask you a little bit about Clay County specifically. As far as economic development concerned, Clay County, like every other county in the KC metro area, has not been immune to additional business interests, a lot of commercial popping up here and there. What is your long-term vision for economic development in the county, and are there any industries specifically you'd like to see come into Clay County?
So that's a good question. There's actually my role in government. What I really think government's role isn't so much to create the economic development per se, but to create the atmosphere where people want to come here, where people want to come and either buy homes or bring their businesses here. And we started down that road when I first got. Actually, while I was campaigning, I was also campaigning for the reduction in our surtax. That's the tax that we charge our businesses. We were not in a line with a lot of the surrounding counties. Believe it or not, we thought, if we're going to be competitive, we want business to come here. Um, we got to make it easy for them. We got to be attractive. And the surtax, I should say, was not attractive. So we fixed that. We lowered that significantly. And then throughout my 3 years, I've done a number of things from lowering the senior property tax levy to including the bonded debt, which I spearheaded that as well, to lowering the overall tax levy. We reduced the Clay County tax levy by almost 30%, 30% over the last 3 years. People don't realize that because we're a smaller part of the tax levy. We're not as big as the schools and so forth. And then crime, those kinds of things. If crime is the first thing that can drive people and businesses away, and it's the first thing that can attract people, it's what attracted me and my family. And so I've been working closely with the sheriff's office. Our sheriff's department was the lowest paid in the region for decades, even though every politician had run on public safety. And I was able to, in my first night on the commission, able to push for raises for the sheriff's deputies, got them the largest raise in the history of the county the first year. Second year, got the second largest raise, and the third year, got them another raise. And they're on track to be in one of the top paid if we continue down the road that we're going. We did that all without raising any taxes, just better governance. But what that does, and we did the same thing for the prosecutor's office, added prosecutors to the office, increased the pay for our county prosecutor. And what that does, those are the two key offices when it comes to public safety. And to me, public safety is really at the core of so many things that we do. Whether it's businesses, their property values, insurance rates, wanting business to come here, that kind of thing. So what I've really tried to do is create an atmosphere in the county that would attract businesses and people alike to want to move here. And I can go on. There's more things that I've done. I don't know how much I want to talk about that, but as far as economic development itself and who I want to see come here, I was one of the lead negotiators negotiating with the Royals to try and get the Royals to come here. We were close. We were real close. But one thing that we refused to do, and I can't talk details because it's still under an NDA, but one thing I refused to do was just throw away funny money. I wasn't going to get in a bidding war with Jackson County or with Kansas and say, hey, we're just going to grab all the taxpayer money we can and give it to you rich billionaires so that you'll come and stay here. We had a very, very sound, fair plan with a return on investment for our property owners and for our taxpayers that they almost accepted. But then some funny money came in from the other side. So, but as far as any specific businesses, I tell you personally, the one business I like to see here is Trader Joe's. I want to see a Trader Joe's up here near Liberty, where I am. And that's where we shopped all the time in Southern California. My wife misses that the most. But I think it depends on your neighborhood. I mean, Clay County is a big county, and different businesses will fit differently in different parts of the county, in different cities. Look at North Kansas City, for example. From what I understand, North of Kansas City doesn't have a grocery store at all in their city. So maybe a grocery store might be nice there. But it depends on what city you're looking at and what that particular community is comfortable with. You see what's happening in Liberty right now with the data centers and some of the issues that's going on there. They're bringing a data center. There's a lot of pushback on that from a few folks there. And there's pros and cons to data centers as well. But I don't know that I'm particularly for or against any specific development. I just think it has to be the right development. And I think there's a lot of questions that has to be asked depending on what that is and where it goes and what the community is looking for. And we always want to look for a return on investment. We want to see a win-win. And that's why I talked about the Royals day one when I met with John Sherman, the owner of the Royals, majority owner of the Royals. I said, listen, this has got to be a win-win. I said, I'm not looking to just give money to a business to come here so you can make more money. He says, listen, you guys, if some billionaire comes to our county and wants to make money, I want to make you a multi-billionaire. I want you to be filthy rich. But at the same time, I want the community to benefit from that as well. And that's really the trade-off. And that's really what I look for in any business that comes here is, hey, how can we make you successful? At the same time, how can you benefit us as a community, as a county? And there's a lot of win-win opportunities out there, I think. And I think as Clay County is more and more becoming on the map, shall we say, we're one of the fastest growing counties in the state, and people are starting to recognize us as more. And when I talked to John Sherman from the Royals, I said, listen, I said, if you're just using us, as a pawn, as leverage for negotiation, I'm okay with that. I said, just let me know that because I'm going to use you as well. I'm going to use you to showcase, hey, look at the Royals are looking at North Kansas City and Clay County because of what we have to offer. And these are all the things we have to offer. And this is why they're looking at us. So I'm going to use that as well to our advantage. And that's what we've been actually trying to do when we talk to other businesses and say, hey, these are all the reasons why the Royals wanted to come here. And so that's kind of my philosophy on businesses and bringing business here. We're right now, it's funny because when we talk about the EDC, Economic Development Council here in Clay County, I'm on that. I've been on that for years. We haven't been happy with how they've been governing things and how they haven't really been driving businesses here like we'd like to see. And being the cheerleader for Clay County that we'd like to see. So we actually, as a commission, decided, we're gonna pull out of this commission, the EDC, and each city has their own, and we're gonna bring them together. And we've started that already. We're gonna bring them together to form more of an alliance countywide, so that we can be more successful and more powerful, I think, in bringing businesses to our community. And I think it'll give us a bigger voice if we do it that way, because the EDC has not had, the Clay County EDC has not had a whole lot of juice, I should say. And they're, quite frankly, they're about ready to go bankrupt because they're mismanaged. But coincidentally, the person running against me is the executive director there at the EDC, but that's another story. But nonetheless, so that's what we're trying to do is bring all these economic development committees from all the different cities together here in Clay County, be a stronger voice and a better voice when it comes to development and working as a team to build Clay County the way we want to, the smart way, the way that works for businesses and works for the community. And I think that's the important part.
Well, very much appreciate your response on that. I really like the holistic approach you're taking to economic development, trying to bring all the stakeholders to the table, looking at things instead of in silos, doing it a bit more of a regional approach. That's good. And it's funny, almost anyone we talk to about economic development, it's either Chick-fil-A or Trader Joe's. Miraculously comes up in every conversation. So that's pretty funny. You
You
talked.
say it's, I'm sorry, I was going to jump in. It's kind of funny you brought that up, what you'd like to see. I'm from, full disclosure, I'm from Wyandotte County, so I'm a Kansan, and we're home of the Chiefs, future
Right.
Chiefs. I'm going
Yep.
to live about 1.5 to 2 miles away from it. But
Oh, wow.
I know when the Legends development agreement went into place, after we secured the Speedway, the Legends agreement, the only thing that was in it that it specifically had to have the entire shopping district and restaurant district was it had to have an Applebee's, because we did not have a sit down restaurant in the community. So the bar was
Wow.
so low that all they had to do was build an Applebee's and everybody in the community would have been happy. So it's kind of funny, that you mentioned Trader Joe's, and everybody's got their hot button. And I remember I'm also chairman of planning and zoning for the unified government, and I know when we approved Whataburger, that was a big thing too, and everybody was just all abuzz over getting a Whataburger. So it's amazing what little things can do to
Yeah.
turn around and flip public opinion, on you
Yeah.
real quick.
And speaking of Whataburger, I'd like to see an In-N-Out burger come this far too.
We
I
all
know that
would.
they
We
don't
all
come this.
would.
That's
Yeah.
ambitious.
Yeah. There's a lot of
So
us that are waiting for that. Although
yeah.
I think I've heard there is something in the works for somewhere in the metro, but I'm not sure.
Well, they've started expanding further west already. So I'd heard that there's rumor that they're trying to get this far, but it's all about supply and demand and keeping their stuff fresh and warehousing, all that kind of stuff. And
Right.
we can certainly make it work for them. The big difference I see coming from California and specifically LA, Orange County, which is huge and massive population. There's not a restaurant or a grocery store or a food chain in the world that we don't have down there, just because there's so much demand for it. And
Sure.
so going from there to here and seeing that, okay, we're limited here, and there's a reason why we're limited here. I've seen a variety of different businesses open up and close down just because they didn't have the traffic that they needed, the foot traffic in and out to
Right.
support them.
Well, that kind of
And
leads me to my question about housing is so many times housing is what drives economic development. And I know in our case in Western Wyandotte County, we didn't have the housing, so we actually built a speedway, which then brought in all of the retail and restaurants, and then we built houses around them. So we kind of did
yeah,
it the back way. So my question to you is regarding Clay County, talking about what type of housing challenges do you see in Clay County, and what challenges do you face, and then how do you work to turn that around? And what type of things are you looking at to bring more housing to Clay County? And what type of housing? Would it be
yeah.
multifamily, apartments, single family residences? What are you looking at? What are you focused on?
Yeah, so I'll tell you if you read my application. My wife is actually a realtor here. She actually worked for right down the street from us. She worked for the last several months for Summit Homes, new builds that were coming in. And we actually, my 21-year-old son, we helped him or walked him through buying his first house over there. And so I got to see firsthand the challenges of buying a house, first time home buyer here in Clay County, what that looked like for a kid that's never paid taxes in his life. And now I was looking at, wait, Dad, I got to pay this much. And then it's in Kansas City. So I got to pay the city earnings tax. And the city has a much higher, Kansas City has much higher utilities than I have living outside of the city. So seeing all those different things, but it's interesting. You talked about, you brought the Speedway in first and houses came around and vice versa. There's always a lot of places you can see there's usually some kind of big anchor or something that kind of brings people there. It's twofold. There's the houses, but then you need the jobs that go with those people that want to buy those houses. And so it's
Right.
kind of you need to kind of bring it all together. We have some of the things we have going positive for us now. The school districts in Clay County, particularly where I live here in the Liberty area, are outstanding an outstanding school district, which is important to home buyers. And keeping quality school districts, I think, are very, very important to home buyers. So that's good. Crime, I mentioned crime. I think that's also very, very, very important to home buyers. Um, but one of the things I've been working on, and I started day one, is first of all making for building not only homes but building businesses from scratch is making it easier. We've overburdened our builders for so long. We saw what happened in Kansas City over the past couple of years and
Yep.
the issues. We didn't want to make that mistake in Clay County.
Thank you.
And yeah, and so we pushed hard, and I worked closely with our planning and zoning development folks, and said, hey, listen, we need to be able to streamline things. And so we did that. We streamlined our processes tremendously. We try not to overburden. We look at fee schedules. And we don't want to overburden these people with fees. You got an inspector that comes out, spends 15 seconds on the lot, then leaves, and you're going to charge him $1,000. No, that's not fair. And then all these fees and all these burdens and all these things get tacked on to the price of a home. Not only the price of the home, but the delay in building a home, and also the ability to attract home builders to come here. It's like, why would I want to go build in Kansas City when I could go build over here for half the hassle and half the price? And I'm selling my homes left and right. And so we're really trying to create an atmosphere. And I started that early on of making it an easier process for home builders. And when I say home builders, when we talk about permitting process, it applies to businesses as well. But making an easier process, a cheaper process, and less burdensome process so that we can attract home builders here, attract businesses here. Let's build here. Let's develop here smartly, of course. I mean, there's areas of Clay County that I'm one of them. I want to be I want to be in the country. I like country. I live on 100 acres right now. I have horses. I have trails in my backyard. I don't want to lose that to development. I don't want to develop my property. But right down the street, less than a mile away, Summit Homes is developing. That's where my son lives. It's a perfect place for that. We still have our piece of country that we want a country, and other people that want to develop. We have areas that we can develop in. We have so much space here in Clay County. So much opportunity for development, both in businesses, both in housing, as well as still those people that want the larger lots, the country. Don't want my neighbor looking in my window from their window, kind of a deal. So we have the ability to have all of those in Clay County. And it's just government. A lot of times government just has to get out of the way. A lot of times government creates problems, and sometimes we just need to get out of the way. And that's one of the things there's certain things we need to do, but a lot of times just get out of the way, let free enterprise happen. Let these people come in and build their homes and sell their homes. Let these let these businesses come in, and then let's help them flourish, and just stay out of the way and don't overburden them, don't overtax them, don't over permit them, don't over inspect them. Just, let's be reasonable about this. I think the pendulum swung too far. We actually saw it big time in Kansas City. So it helped us to point, hey, look at that. We don't want to be like that. And so we've worked really hard, and I've really been one of the drivers on that in the commission, to make sure that we want to be business friendly, we want to be builder friendly, and we want to have housing that's affordable. And that's when you're a young person out trying to buy, or a young family out trying to buy a home. It's difficult to do. It's very difficult to do, and we got to find ways to make it more affordable. And I'm not saying make it cheap, and I'm not saying make it. We want just low income housing throughout the county. That's not it. It's just affordable housing and low income housing are two different things to me, and we just need to make housing more affordable. It's that simple. And I dabbled in the real estate market myself in California, before coming out here, and it's just a drastically different market
Oh,
out there
absolutely.
than it is here. And a lot of it has to do with population, demand, supply and demand issues. And so what we need to do is we need to be more attractive. And that's in Clay County, that's where I'm at. I mean, where you are in Wyandotte County, and there's places in Kansas that are very attractive. So in Orange County, California, so when you look at, so I have a cousin that lives over in Overland Park area, which is very nice. We compare that to like the Orange County where I lived in California. Just a nice area.
It is.
My wife goes there to shop sometimes. I said,
Sure.
wait a second, why is my wife going there to shop? Why can't my wife stay here to shop? I know why. And so it's being able to kind of create that over here, and it kind of all has to go. You need the people that are going to live here. You have to have the housing here for people to live here. You have to have the jobs here so people want to come here, and you have to have an atmosphere where businesses like the ones you see in Overland Park will want to come here as well. Trader Joe's, In-N-Out Burger, whatever it is that they
Right.
want to come here, and that the demand is there for it, and that you have there's got to be some amount of disposable income for business to be successful. In other words, if you have a community with zero disposable income, those businesses are going to struggle because people aren't going to go out to eat, whereas you have and disposable income has a lot to do with not only your job, it has to do with your housing. That's the biggest expense most people have. If that's all they can do is afford their house because of the money they make, well, then they don't have much disposable income. If we can reduce some of that housing cost, well, then that increases the disposable income. And now that can be spent on other things like businesses, and we can go out and buy an In-N-Out Burger or go to Trader Joe's, which is slightly more expensive than some other grocery stores. But kind of all goes hand in hand. And really, government, I think, in my position, is to create that atmosphere so all those things can happen. And we've really in the first 3.5 years I've been there, we've really driven that pretty hard with some of the legislation that I personally have pushed through to make that happen. And quite frankly, I continue to plan to continue to push that kind of stuff through.
Well, thank you for that answer. And I know affordable housing is one of those, it's a difficult thing to work with because then you bring up affordable housing, then unfortunately a lot of people don't want to live next to affordable housing. They have their own ideas of what it looks like. And then
Right.
also with regards to Overland Park, Johnson County set out many, many decades ago to create a community, and they held pretty steadfast with what they wanted to look at. And it's amazing what they built over the last 50, 60 years. So testament to
Yeah.
them and their forethought.
Yeah.
James.
Great.
Well, Commissioner, I just wanted to say I appreciate you highlighting the concerns surrounding first-time home buyers. It's something that, frankly, I don't think we talk about enough as a country, but it's certainly one of the biggest and most promise or pressing needs nationally currently. And if you look at the numbers, I mean, it has been inching closer and closer to 40 for first-time home buyers. So it's unbelievable, and I appreciate you highlighting that. And also, the reference to Kansas City is kind of a textbook case of good intentions, bad execution, the fact that you guys have been able to learn from that and shape your policy around that example. I appreciate your answer on that. We talked a little bit about commercial growth. We talked about residential. All of that brings more people into Clay County and puts more cars on your roads. As far as the long-term infrastructure and transportation needs of the county, what might that look like? And do you have any potential solutions to address those?
Yep. I'll tell you what we've already done, actually. So I told you, my philosophy is that government tries to do too many things, and government really needs to focus on very few things and do them right. Public safety is number one. We need to have a safe public, number one. Right up there is infrastructure needs. As a matter of fact, I ran three things that I ran on: public safety, infrastructure, business friendly. Those are the three things, the three main points. Those are the things. Those are the three main points that I ran on my elevator speech when I was running. Those are the three things I hit on. Public safety, which is, I mean, that's my bailiwick. That's what I did for 30 years. So I know that, I know it well. Um, Infrastructure. What's interesting about infrastructure, particularly when we talk about roads and bridges here, is it's different than where I was in Southern California, because you have weather issues here that just destroy your roads every year, every winter. We didn't have snow and we didn't have the kind of rain and the freezing weather. It's between 60 to 80 degrees every day where I live. So that was the flux. That was the fluctuation. So it's a different story here. And so what we did, I think it was after our first year, myself and a couple other commissioners got together and said, we need to do something better. We need to be better at roads and bridges. That's why we collect taxpayers' money, and we're getting too many complaints. And so what we did is we put together a committee, and we said, we want to find a way to put millions of dollars more into our infrastructure. In this case, it was specifically roads and bridges. We did. We went through our budget. We found money. We dedicated that to roads and bridges. I said, and we want a 5-year plan in writing on our website that people can see. So every 5 years, every single street in the county is redone. Some sooner if they need to be, but every 5 years is redone. And you can go to that website and look at your street, see when it's scheduled to be resurfaced, what kind of resurface is going to be done. Is it going to be, there's different kind of roads. I won't get too into the weeds on that, but it'll tell you specifically what's going to happen to your road and when. We also set up a schedule or set up online. So if you're driving by, you see a pothole, or you hit a pothole or something, you see a pothole start to develop or something, you go online, you push a button, you log in where it's at, and it's filled and fixed within 2 days. We bought a truck, actually. So this is one of the efficient things we were doing. We bought this pot filler truck. Normally, you think of the old days of filling a pothole, and you see about 4 or 5 guys standing around with shovels, and one guy filling the hole, and the rest of them just collecting paychecks. So what we do, we got this machine, this truck that just one person drives it. You don't have to get out. You drive up. It's got this big mechanical arm. It cleans it. It preps it. It fills it. It does everything. So you can go by and you can fill a pothole within minutes with one person, and we can just drive around the whole county all day long, just keep filling potholes with that machine. It's amazing how it works. So one of those efficiencies that we're looking at. But roads and bridges are one thing. When you got to talk about water and sewer and those kinds of things, because to attract businesses, they want to come to, they want a location. Hey, do I have services available? Do I have electrical service available? Because we have a lot of open country here. Do I have electrical services available here? Do I have sewer available here? Do I have water here? Can I hook up to water here? All these different things that they're looking at. That's all part of infrastructure, as well as roads and bridges. And so we're looking at all those different things, and how can we make that not only easier, cheaper. So in California, there's a guy named Donald Brand out there. I don't know if you heard the name Don Brand, big in the real estate market. If you heard of Irvine, California, he basically built Irvine, California. He's one of the most wealthiest and biggest developers in the nation. He lived in Newport Beach, which is right next door to Irvine. I knew him. And I looked at what he did in Irvine, California, where you have this planet, a developed community, a developed city. It's not just a community; it's a huge city, similar to like a Jackson County Overland Park or Johnson County Overland Park type deal, where they plan. Hey, you know what? We need to start thinking ahead 5, 10, 15, 20 years. What do we want this to look like? And what infrastructure do we need to start on today so that we can look good and be prepared for what we want to see in 5, 10, 15 years? And with most politicians, they're very short-minded, and it's very much just about, hey, I'm in office for 2, 4 years, whatever it is, then I got to run for election again. They don't think long-term like that. Having been in a CEO position as a chief of police and a city manager, that was my job. It wasn't to run the daily operations. It was to think, okay, 5, 10 years down the road, what do we want to look like? And what do I need to do to start planning for that now? So that's kind of the approach I've taken in government. Say, the daily operations, we have a guy that runs that here in the county. We have our county administrator. We need to be looking ahead, like right now, one of the meetings I had last week, say we need a county jail. It's going to take us at least 5 to 10 years before we get a new county jail. We're already over capacity. We're at 420 something beds in our county jail, which is designed for like 300 bodies. So we're way over capacity. And this should have been planned for 10 years ago. This should have already been done. But no politician wants to tackle that. Nobody wants to deal with that. And that has impact on crime. And we can't keep criminals in jails anymore. We have city police that says, we arrest this guy for stealing a car for the third time, but we can't put him in the jail because there's no room, because there's more violent criminals that are in there right now. So those kinds of things, short-sightedness, because politicians don't want to tackle those things. That's exactly what I'm tackling. I don't care if I don't get reelected. It doesn't bother me. I'm in it to do the right thing. I don't need the money. I don't need I don't know if there's any fame that goes with this or not, but I don't need any power. It's a county commissioner position. I mean, come on, I'm not the president. So there's not a whole lot to it. I do it because I think this is my forever home for my family. I'm doing it because I think I can do a better job than most at projecting what we need down in the future. And let's start working on that now. Let's start building those coalitions down. Let's start making those things happen now, so that in 10 years, we know, we're going to have this full infrastructure in place, so that we'll have all these locations where new businesses can continue to come and develop. And we're set up ready. It's kind of like a plug and play deal. Hey, business wants to come in here, you're ready to go. We got your sewer ready to go. We've got your water ready to go. We've got your electricity ready to go. You just come plug in and play, and we're ready to go. We need to be more like that. We've never thought like that in the past. We now have a commissioner who's thinking, at least a number of us are thinking like that, and really pushing and driving for that. And that's what we need, because businesses, that's where they're going to go. Builders, that's where they're going to go. And so we need to make it easy for them and say, listen, you've got a county government here that supports what you're doing, wants to see what you're doing, come here, because that's good for us. It's a win-win for both of us. And that's really what I'm trying to develop on the commission side of things, is that long-term, long-range thinking when it comes to infrastructure, because that doesn't happen overnight. And there's a lot of different options out there. I see right now they're very short-minded. Like, we'll come and we'll build like, I live right next door to I forget what this development is over here, but they come in, they set up their own little sewer septic system, for just their only, for their little group of 10, 20 houses, whatever it is. That's kind of short-term thinking to me. That's kind of small-mindedness. We need to think bigger than that. We need to think citywide. Okay, what's a city going to look like, and what's the infrastructure going to look like for an entire city in our county, and how does that operate? How does a sewer system operate? We can't just have everybody having lagoons out there or septic tanks on every house. We got to start thinking bigger than that. And I tell everybody that Clay County is in the process, or has been in the process, of putting its big boy pants on. We're finally starting to act and look and be more professional, like a big county, like we are. Before, we were very much, I use the word podunk. We talk like, we're just, good old boys, and we'll just make it happen. We're too big for that now. We need to start thinking like the professionals. We need to start acting professional. We need to start doing things big, thinking long-term, that kind of stuff. And that's just a mindset. That's a culture change that we're trying to get to. And so that's what I'm really, really pushing for.
Well, very much appreciate your commitment to long range and long term planning. And you are absolutely right. I think it's very easy for when someone gets into office, it's difficult for them to plan out beyond the duration of their term. And having that foresight, and I think you gave a great example. I mean, if you look at Overland Park compared to other municipalities in the metro, there's a reason that they are so far, leaps and bounds ahead, because they had the foresight during the initial phases of planning for that city to get them to where they are today. So, excellent point and excellent example. Jeff, do you want to bring us home?
Really, just maybe kind of one final question about you. Realtors, play a key role in a lot of things, but nobody knows your constituents probably better than realtors, because we're in their living rooms every day. Um, what why should the realtor support you over maybe your challenger? I mean, what makes you the standout candidate for a realtor? You're married to one, so I would start with that.
Yeah, married to one.
There you go.
So, first of all, I think probably because I understand the real estate industry, because I dabbled in it myself. I was not a realtor, but I bought and sold some homes, and I've got a multi-million-dollar home here in Clay County paid off because of the real estate market that I played in California. I was able to turn a $310,000 purchase in California to $1.5 million sell by the time I left. And in between that time, I rented it out, a 3-bedroom home, 3-bedroom home, 2,300 square feet for $4,000 a month. $4,000 a month. That's crazy what you can do in California. But I understand the market, obviously the California market better, but also the market here a little bit. I understand what it takes when it comes to buying and selling, as well as rental. Because I had a rental, what that entails, the work that it entails, but also what impacts that. Everything from how property taxes will impact that. I guess the best example I have is watching my wife. So my son's purchase was my wife's first transaction. She was his real estate agent. That's her first transaction here in Missouri with him. And so I watched and I sat through it because I've done it myself. I bought and sold on my own without a realtor. And I was my own, did it myself in California. I was with him through the whole process, and I got to see firsthand all the things that a first-time home buyer, and he's 21. Most people 20. He's a firefighter in Lee Summit. Most people 21 can't do it. He lived at home, saved all his money. I mean, he did it right. I'm so proud
good
of
for him.
But I was able to see what he went through, and able to see some of the different challenges. I was able to see the impacts that stressed him out, such as property taxes. And he was shocked. He had no idea that he'd be paying property taxes. The difference in water rates that he pays living in Kansas City versus what I pay living outside the city. Water rates are huge. He's letting gas rates. I'm on propane here. He's on city gas, Kansas City gas. He says I don't use any gas. I didn't use any gas at all last month, Dad. He says, and my bill was, I forget what it was, like $80, something like that. He says, it's all fees. None of it was to gas, it's all fees. He says, to the point where a lot of people are talking, we can shut our gas off during the summer months and just turn it back on during the winter because it's got electric stove. The only gas thing he has is for his furnace. I just want to use a furnace. And if it happens to get cold, I'll use a plug-in thing. He says, just the gas fees alone, he says, it's ridiculous. Government gets in the way more than they help. And government needs to stop thinking that way. Government needs to start thinking like, hey, how can I help these real estate agents? How can I make because if a real estate agent is successful, I got another successful, not only houses being bought and sold, but I got another individual who's now making a good income because they're able to buy and sell houses. So that's what I want. I want someone like you, a real estate agent who's successful in real estate, living in my county, contributing to my tax base, buying and selling, stuff in my county. I mean, it's kind of a big circle. So certainly the success of the real estate market, the success of realtors is really somewhat at the core of the success of the county. Because if we're not buying and selling homes, if we're not getting people to lease our office spaces, if those things aren't happening, I mean, what do we have? It's just not going to be successful.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I say all the time, you know what, if we're doing well, if our business is doing well, that means our economy is doing well in our cities, our states, and nationally. So you can look to us, we know the economic impact of a house sale. We know what happens when somebody buys a house, they're off to Home Depot and Nebraska Furniture Mart, and they're out there spending money. So those transactions need to occur. So those other transactions, because they all support one another. So I
Yes.
appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
That's all I have, James.
Well, I think that's all for me as well. Commissioner, do you have any questions for
Okay.
us?
No, I just I appreciate the time, and like I said, I appreciate having your support last time. I certainly hope I can get it again this time. I know a lot of people value the support of you guys, and when it comes to elections, and KCRAR is certainly a big part of what we do. So I appreciate you guys.
No, we appreciate you. Very much appreciate that. And certainly we'll be in touch, and best of luck out there on the campaign trail.
All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.